Well, after all these years, Mark, it's great to finally catch up again. Congratulations on an unbelievable professional career and all the things that have come after it.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, it goes quick, doesn't it? But I think that, you know, when I left here all those years ago when we're doing the work here in Australia, or you're racing touring cars here and I was doing a bit of Formula 4 then, yeah, left in the mid-90s, and it certainly goes in a flash. But I didn't want to come back to Australia with my tail between my legs. Had some tricky moments, but I worked with great people. At the end of the day, I was very lucky. I worked with people that had the same sort of vision in my dream, which was really important. And then, you know, I hung it out over there, and I couldn't have wished for the sort of, I suppose, the career that I had. So yeah, and back here now, or for a break in Australia, but yeah, working with great partners. And the next phase, chapter 2, let's say, is going very well as well.
I distinctly remember you sitting in my lounge room as a Formula Ford kid, and I reckon if I had $1 for every young kid at some stage who said, I want to be a Formula 1 driver, or I'm going to be a Formula 1 driver, I'd be a half-wealthy man. Yeah. You actually made that come true, and I think 9 career victories, 13 poles, 40-something podiums, 1,000+ points. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad, was it? I think that, you know, when you do sit down and talk to people of that time, you know, obviously they think you're deluded. It's the lottery component is ginormous, and I think that, you know, I did have, as I say, the people around me. We were very narrow. There was really no plan B. We just said we have to make this work. I want to make this work, and I was really tough on people around me as well, I think, and making phone calls and just, I think I showed the passion and enthusiasm for me to get there and show that I can deliver when it really counted. And that's what, you know, I just had that belief, I suppose, that it was going to happen. And even though there was clearly moments where it was really shaky and it was not going to happen, but you know, navigating my way through those junior categories in Europe is obviously incredibly challenging, as we know. The strike rate for people from this part of the world is very, very low, from Australia and NZ, and even though there's a lot of talent down here, but you know, the cultural change, you know, shifting over there. You know, back when I was going through Europe, there was no euro. There was all the different currencies, all the different languages. Still is now, but you know, in Germany and France, there just wasn't people talking as much English back then. You know, so now it's much more FaceTime. We've got Skype. We've got all that stuff. None of that. So yeah, it was a tricky phase, but enjoyed it when I look back at it.
It's berserk when you think about it, isn't it? I mean, there's what, near enough to 8 billion people on the planet, and if you're lucky enough, you might become one of the 20 or 22 or 24, depending on the season, Formula 1 drivers. I mean, the odds are about as close to impossible as you can get. Yeah,
it is challenging, and I think that, you know, the opportunity, it's always about just seizing the moment, seizing the opportunity, and I managed to get the results when it counted. You know, I didn't have a phenomenal junior career. It was pretty handy, but I think that I had the right results at the right time. Just kept my, you know, nose above the water, and then, you know, I got the test deal with Benetton, which come along, and I was so prepared for that test. That was one thing that I was very happy with. The controllables were there. I was in great shape. I was fit. I was ready to hang on to this car because I tried to put myself in a position that, you know, this car's going to be horrible physically. It's going to be so torturous, and you know, whatever track it is, it could be an easy track physically, it could be a tough track. So all those things I thought I could control, I did, and sure enough, the first test was pretty much in Estoril with, you know, you got a super long, fast right-hander, and so the neck and everything, it was horrible. But you know, of course, you never show it. You're like, you know, I'm hanging in there. I've got this covered. So it was, yeah, all those things, and I think that at that level again, all the engineers and the people around know that there's an expectation around that professionalism from your side, but also they know you're going to have some weaknesses because it's the first time you've done it.
And then you got to the end of the Formula 1 career, and then it wasn't as though you just put the slippers on and sat down with the pipe and watched telly. You jumped straight into a factory program with Porsche, and you've always had a passion for all things Porsche. I remember scooting around at your joint at one stage in the UK. Come on, let's go for a ride. Yeah. And you had a fistful of them at that stage. Yeah. And you turned that into a world championship. That's an awesome story.
Yeah, it was actually, because I was at the Red Bull Ring in 2012, and Wolfgang Hutz at the time, who was the board member and head of R&D there at Porsche, he was like, we're going to go back to Le Mans and we want you to race one of the cars for us. And I said, well, I've got this little thing called Formula 1 that I want to finish up. So and he was sort of like, no, but you've got to come and drive for us next year, and basically test and help develop the car and get ready for Le Mans in 2014, which was the real attack on the race there. So finished my Formula 1 career in 2013. I did have a handshake with Porsche, and I was excited with that because, as I say, I was secretly buying Porsches when I was driving for other manufacturers.
And, away like M&Ms.
Yeah, so I enjoyed driving the cars. They were great. They're just so understated but have exceptional performance, and I enjoyed driving them. So when that opportunity came, it was an absolute no-brainer for me to go from, you know, the pinnacle in motorsport, which was Formula One, and then work with a manufacturer that clearly, when they go motor racing, they do a very, very, very special job of it. And again, they have, you know, world-class people and partners around working with them. So that was important for me to have that 3 years, and I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I would have done, especially on the team component with the teammates and sort of building the car and sort of the R&D process was super enjoyable for an older guy at that point.
And phenomenal technical program as well. So kind of almost a wholesale shift in the technology from where you'd been in F1 and then what Porsche were doing, which interestingly is sort of taking us to something of a new automotive future, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the car was hybrid. Obviously, it had an electrical motor, a big 800-volt battery. It had a small combustion engine, very, very efficient engine. It was a 4-cylinder, 2-litre, very heavily turbocharged component. So that technology was getting that synced with each other with a digital electric motor which had tremendous horsepower on the front axle and a very sort of lethargic with a lot of moving parts and, you know, a laggy sort of turbo situation on a small engine. Syncing with the rear axle was quite challenging, and being a four-wheel drive, very different to Formula One, as you say. So Formula One car, much lighter, rear-wheel drive, no traction control, a lot more sort of a little bit more basic actually, where the 919 Porsche was extremely advanced, traction control front and rear, distance mapped sort of electronics and brakes, and it was a beast.
And I don't reckon our audience fully understands the performance, like the sheer point-to-point speed, lap speed, you know, grabbing, wrestling, controlling, and actually containing one of these things.
Yeah.
A bit of a challenge.
Yeah, it was a special car, and it was a fine line between having, of course, the performance, because you need exceptional performance, because you obviously want to be controlling the race. Endurance racing is about trying to have the car, you know, not under as much stress as it needs to be. So we wanted to have performance in our pocket, but also having the opportunity to then make the car subtle enough that 3 drivers could drive the car on the limit as well. And that was important for us to develop the car in such a way that we could have it that the car didn't really know who was driving it. So we wanted it nice and calm. It was like the car's, you know, it's going to behave for us, whoever's behind the wheel, which takes a long time, you know, in different compounds of tyres, different conditions, in the rain, whatever those sort of scenarios are. So that takes a long time. It doesn't matter how much coin you got, you've got to actually go through that journey as a development phase.